Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be diving deep today into something kind of fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, spaces, the places we worship and how they can actually shape our faith.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not just about, rituals or beliefs. It's about the actual physical spaces,
Yeah.
the atmosphere, the buildings themselves. Like, it all kind of plays a part.
It's true.
Yeah, so to guide us on this deep dive, we've got an excerpt from Reverend Todd Farnsworth's sermon,
Okay.
Change in the Air, and he really uses this idea of physical spaces to take us through like this really fascinating journey through religious history.
Yeah. And he starts in a really unexpected place.
Oh.
The Israelites and their tabernacles.
Right. Like we're talking about a portable place of worship.
I know.
Not a grand cathedral or anything,
Yeah.
but a tent.
Right.
It housed the Ark of the Covenant, sure, but, a tent, it almost feels kind of casual.
Well, you have to remember the Israelites were nomads at that time. So, I guess as this even lays out specific instructions, for building and dismantling the tabernacle.
Oh, wow.
Showing just how crucial this portability was to their lifestyle.
Like their God was on the go.
Yeah. Literally traveling with them.
So it wasn't just about practicality then.
No.
It was about, a faith that was adaptable.
Exactly.
It was flexible, constantly, evolving to meet new environments, new challenges.
Exactly. And then comes this massive shift
Okay.
with King Solomon in the first temple.
Right.
I mean, this wasn't just a bigger tent.
Yeah.
Solomon went all out.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking stone, cedar, gold.
Yeah.
A permanent fixture meant to just inspire awe and establish Jerusalem as the central point of worship.
Wow, what a statement. From a tenth that you can pack up
I know.
to this opulent temple, that must have totally changed how people experience their faith.
Absolutely. Imagine going from wandering, never staying in one place too long,
Right.
to having this grand, permanent structure at the heart of your society.
Yeah, it reflects a societal shift too, right? Oh, absolutely.
From nomadic to more settled, centralized.
Exactly.
But here's what really surprised me. Farnsworth mentions that Solomon actually encouraged foreigners to come and pray at the temple.
Oh, yeah.
It seems pretty open-minded for the time, don't you think?
It really does. And you see, Solomon wasn't just flexing, his architectural muscles here.
Yeah.
He was also a pretty savvy politician.
Okay.
He saw the temple as a way to project power and influence beyond his own borders.
Ah.
So welcoming foreigners wasn't just about being nice.
It
It was about spreading awareness of his God and, by extension, his kingdom.
So even back then, there was this understanding that faith wasn't meant to be confined to just one group,
Right.
that it could have this outward-facing universal aspect.
Right, this idea that a shared place of worship, regardless of background,
Yeah.
could build bridges and expand religious understanding.
Of course, the first temple was eventually destroyed,
Right.
but that idea of a central grand place of worship, it really stuck around.
Yeah. Think about, the grand cathedrals and mosques throughout history.
Yeah.
They all tap into that same impulse, right?
Absolutely. It carries over into Christianity as well,
Yeah.
especially after Emperor Constantine declared Christianity the state religion.
And that's where things get really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because with Constantine, you get this fusion of religious and political power.
Yeah.
And it gives the early church stability and influence, sure.
Right.
But it also leads to power struggles and a more hierarchical structure.
Yeah.
It's almost like the church building itself
Yeah.
becomes this symbol of control rather than just a place of spiritual connection.
You're spot on. And Farnsworth even points to Constantine's harsh stance against Jewish practices at the time. It really highlights how this merging of church and state can lead to exclusion and the suppression of other faiths.
Right.
And this model of centralized authority with the church holding significant power, well, it eventually faced a pretty powerful challenge.
Okay.
And that's where Martin Luther enters the picture.
Ah, yes. Martin Luther, the OG disruptor.
Uh-huh.
Now, his 95 Theses, people often misunderstand those, I think. They weren't demands.
Right.
But more like conversation starters. Imagine him, nailing them to the church door and going, okay, let's talk about this.
Exactly.
He was deeply concerned about what he saw as corruption within the church
Yeah,
and really wanted to reform it from within.
absolutely. And one of his biggest ideas
Yeah?
was decentralization.
Okay.
This idea that every individual had the right to engage with Scripture directly, without needing a priest to interpret it for them.
Wow.
He called it the priesthood of all believers.
Which was completely revolutionary at the time, right? I mean, this was challenging the entire power structure of the church.
It was a total shakeup. And The printing press, which was relatively new at the time,
Yeah.
played a massive role in amplifying Luther's ideas.
Oh, wow.
Imagine suddenly the Bible wasn't this mysterious text controlled by the church. People could have their own copies, read it for themselves, form their own interpretations.
Talk about empowering.
I know, right?
So you go from this highly centralized, controlled model of faith to this explosion of ideas and interpretation.
Exactly. The printing press becomes this catalyst for the Reformation.
Wow.
Luther's ideas translated into multiple languages spread like wildfire across Europe.
It's incredible.
And this leads to the emergence of Protestant denominations,
Yeah.
fragmenting the religious landscape in a way that was totally unprecedented.
Okay, so we've gone from a portable tent to a grand temple to this decentralized explosion of ideas.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing how much the way we worship has changed over time and how these changes reflect like these deeper shifts in how we understand faith itself.
It really is. And that's what Farnsworth is getting at,
Okay.
embracing change. He sees this journey from tent to temple to Reformation as proof that faith is dynamic. It has to evolve, just like the Israelites adapted their practices to their changing world.
Right.
So too must we be open to new challenges and insights.
And he connects this directly to the present day, right?
Oh, yeah.
He talks about his own congregation welcoming people from all sorts of backgrounds and beliefs. He seems to be walking the walk, so to speak.
Absolutely. He sees diversity as a strength, not a threat.
Right.
And in a way, he's echoing Solomon's openness to foreigners centuries earlier.
Yeah.
It's this idea that faith can and should transcend boundaries.
It's making me think, you know how our physical spaces like churches, temples, mosques,
Yeah.
they all reflect these deeper shifts in how we understand faith. But what happens when those spaces themselves start to change?
Uh-oh.
When the internet and social media enter the equation, what happens to the temple then?
Now, that is a question for the ages.
Yeah.
And one we'll definitely be diving into.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is at the forefront. How we think about faith today.
Right.
The internet and social media have totally revolutionized how we connect, how we access information,
It's true.
even how we express our spirituality.
I mean, you can join a virtual prayer group.
Yeah,
You can attend services live stream from across the globe.
it's wild.
It's incredible, and it raises all sorts of questions.
Like, what happens to that sense of community?
Right.
That's so central to the religious experience.
All right.
When those connections are primarily online, can a virtual space truly foster the same sense of belonging as a physical one?
Well, that's a good question. It makes me think about how much of the temple experience
Yeah.
is about the physical space itself, the architecture, the
Yeah.
rituals, the shared physical presence.
Yeah. Can those elements be replicated online, or does something get lost in translation?
Right.
Well, that's where things get interesting.
Okay.
Because while there are certainly challenges,
Yeah.
there's also immense potential.
Okay.
Think about it. Online spaces can be incredibly inclusive.
Right.
They can connect people who might be geographically isolated,
Right.
physically disabled, or otherwise unable to participate in traditional religious settings.
You're right. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah.
It's almost like these digital spaces can break down those barriers and create new opportunities for connection and spiritual exploration.
Exactly. And let's not forget the sheer diversity of perspectives, that are available online.
Yeah.
You can engage with people from different faith traditions.
Right.
You can explore alternative spiritual practices. You can access a wealth of information that might not be readily available in your local community.
So it sounds like rather than replacing the physical temple, these digital spaces are actually expanding the very definition of what it means to be a part of a religious community.
Exactly. It's almost like we're witnessing the emergence of a global, interconnected temple that transcends geographical boundaries and traditional structures.
Which, if you think about it, is kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
I mean, for centuries, religious communities have been largely defined by their physical locations. But now, thanks to the internet, we're seeing these fluid, dynamic communities that exist both online and offline.
And this brings us back to Reverend Farnsworth's central message about embracing change.
Yeah.
He sees this historical journey from tent to temple to Reformation
Right.
as evidence that faith must constantly adapt to new circumstances.
Right.
And now with the rise of digital technology, we're seeing yet another profound shift in how we connect with the divine.
But with all this new freedom and possibility,
Yeah.
there are also challenges, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we navigate this vast landscape of information and ensure that we're engaging with faith in a meaningful and responsible way?
You've hit on a crucial point there. It's like being given a powerful new tool without a proper instruction manual.
Right.
We need to develop a kind of digital spiritual literacy, if you will.
Okay.
A set of skills and practices that allow us to navigate this complex landscape with wisdom and discernment.
I love that phrase, digital spiritual literacy. So what does that look like in practice?
Well, for starters, it means being aware of our own biases and how they might influence our online interactions.
Okay.
It means being critical of the information we encounter,
Right.
evaluating sources, and seeking out diverse perspectives.
Okay.
And it means engaging in respectful dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
even when we encounter viewpoints that differ from our own.
So it's not just about consuming information passively,
No,
but about engaging with it critically and thoughtfully.
exactly. It's about cultivating a spirit of curiosity,
Yeah.
open-mindedness, and intellectual humility.
Right.
And it's about remembering that our online interactions have real-world consequences.
Mm-hmm.
The words we choose, the communities we engage with, the information we share, all has the potential to shape not only our own spiritual journeys,
Yeah.
but the wider digital landscape as well.
This is making me think about those online echo chambers we hear so much about,
Yeah.
those spaces where people only interact with those who share their beliefs.
Right.
It seems like that could be a real danger in the digital realm, couldn't it?
It's a significant concern. Echo chambers can create a false sense of certainty and reinforce existing biases. They can also lead to increased polarization and intolerance.
Right.
One of the great benefits of the digital age is the potential for connecting with people from diverse backgrounds and beliefs.
Right.
But if we're not careful, we can end up isolating ourselves within our own ideological bubbles.
So digital spiritual literacy also means being intentional about seeking out diverse perspectives.
Yes.
And engaging in respectful dialogue with those who hold different views.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true spiritual growth often involves challenging our own assumptions and being open to new ways of seeing the world.
And that's something we can all strive for, whether we're engaging with faith online or offline.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity, humility, and compassion qualities that are essential for navigating not just the digital landscape,
Right.
but the complexities of life itself.
Well said. As we're talking about all this, I'm struck by the parallels between the challenges faced by the early church and the challenges we face today.
Yeah.
Both eras have involved grappling with new technologies, shifting power dynamics,
It's true.
and evolving understandings of faith.
That's a fascinating observation, and it makes me wonder if we can learn something from those who came before us. The early church fathers faced immense challenges in navigating the transition from a persecuted minority to a state-sanctioned religion.
Yeah.
They had to grapple with questions of authority interpretation and the relationship between faith and politics.
And those are questions that are still relevant today, aren't they?
Very much so.
Especially as we try to make sense of the role of faith in a rapidly changing digital world.
Absolutely. The past can offer valuable insights into how we might approach the challenges of the present. And just as the early church ultimately found ways to adapt and thrive,
Yeah.
so too can we find ways to navigate the complexities of the digital age with wisdom and grace.
It's almost like we're all pioneers in a sense.
Yeah. Exploring this uncharted territory of digital spirituality.
I love that analogy. It captures the sense of adventure and discovery that I think many of us are feeling.
Right.
We're no longer bound by the old maps and guidebooks.
Yeah.
We're free to create our own paths, forge our own connections, and discover new ways of experiencing the sacred books.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what will the temple of the future look like?
Right.
Will it be a physical space, a virtual one, or some kind of hybrid that we can't even imagine yet?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think there's a single right answer.
Right.
It's likely going to be a tapestry of different approaches reflecting, the diverse needs and desires of individuals and communities.
So we might see these incredible physical spaces designed to enhance those spiritual experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Through, technology and innovative design.
Absolutely. Imagine immersive virtual reality experiences.
Wow.
That transport you to sacred sites around the world.
Yeah.
Or allow you to participate in ancient rituals.
Or think about how artificial intelligence could be used to create personalized spiritual guidance programs tailored to your individual beliefs and practices.
That's pretty mind-blowing. But, technology aside, I think there's also this growing hunger for that authentic human connection,
Oh, for sure.
for a sense of belonging and community.
I agree. And that's where I see the potential for those hybrid spaces
Yeah.
that seamlessly blend the physical and the virtual.
Right.
Imagine like a community center that offers both in-person gatherings and online forums, allowing people to connect in ways that feel both meaningful and accessible.
It's like we're moving towards a more fluid and personalized approach to faith, where individuals can kind of curate their own spiritual journeys
Yeah.
by drawing on a variety of resources and communities.
Exactly. It's about empowering individuals to create their own spiritual toolkit, so to speak,
Yeah.
by blending ancient wisdom with modern technologies and personal experiences.
You know, as we're talking about all of this, it's striking how much emphasis Reverend Farnsworth places on, individual responsibility. He doesn't shy away from the challenges,
No.
but he also sees this as a time of incredible opportunity.
He really does that. I think he's right.
Yeah.
This is a time of unprecedented change and possibility when it comes to faith.
Yeah.
We have access to more information, more perspectives, more ways of connecting than ever before.
Right.
But with that freedom comes responsibility.
So it's not just about embracing change for change's sake.
No,
It's about being intentional about the kind of future we want to create.
precisely. It's about asking ourselves, what does it mean to be a responsible, compassionate, and engaged spiritual seeker in the 21st century?
Right.
How do we harness the power of technology to deepen our understanding, foster genuine connection, and contribute to a more just and compassionate world?
Those are big questions,
They are.
but they're questions we can't afford to ignore.
I couldn't agree more. And ultimately, the answers lie not in dogma or technology, but in the choices we make each and every day. The communities we support, the information we consume, the conversations we engage in,
Yeah.
it all matters. We are each of us shaping the future of faith.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought.
Okay.
Reverend Farnsworth's sermon started with the Israelites, right? Their portable tabernacle, a symbol of their adaptable faith. And it's that spirit of adaptation, that willingness to embrace change and forge new paths that I think is so crucial today.
Well said. It's not about abandoning the wisdom of the past,
Right.
but about building on it, integrating it with new insights and experiences to create something truly transformative.
And who knows, maybe someday someone will look back on this time and marvel at the incredible creativity and resilience
Yeah,
that emerged from this period of profound transformation.
I certainly hope so. It's an exciting time to be alive and to be a part of this unfolding story.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.